Welcome to the HawkCast with your host, AJ Hawk.
Matt Furman, magician Matt Furman, who I've known for, I'd say 8 or 9 years right now. And I've seen multiple magicians in my life. You're definitely the best one I've ever seen, whether that be TV, up close and personal. And you seem to be a guy that does everything like face to face. I know we'll get into your YouTube channel, which I know is awesome. You're growing it now, and you're posting a lot more stuff, which I appreciate. But as a magician, like, how do you get into that? Was that something you got into when you were like a 3-year-old boy?
You know, I got into it late. I got into magic when I was about 16 or 17. When I was in college in Buffalo, there were some great magicians up there, and I saw some stuff which just did it for me. That was it.
Like, what did you see?
So I never saw really good close-up magic. Like you said, I like the stuff that happens right in front of your eyes, close-up. So I had never seen that before. Card tricks, coin tricks, but really like advanced and sophisticated, and that just got me.
So did you go to a show and see something, or were you watching something on TV?
So it was live. See, I was into magic. I kind of, I liked it. I had a friend who was into it, but I was buying tricks, doing some basic stuff. And then I saw some what I call a sleight of hand magician, and just doing mind-blowing stuff.
What do you mean when you say buying tricks?
So, there's a lot of hobbyists out there, and you can always go to a magic shop and somebody will buy a little trick, which is cool. It's great. I mean, I recommend it highly. A lot of younger guys, a lot of kids getting into it. I always tell them, buy a trick, play with one, But I saw some guys doing some just great card tricks and stuff where you can't buy a trick. It's just skill and practice and working on it.
Yeah, that's what interests me. I think when you say buying tricks, like what you do, especially you can do all kind of crazy things with the cards, just how you manipulate the cards, even if you're not doing a trick with it, how you manipulate and fan them out and do everything. That's such a huge, a talent that you've had to practice, obviously thousands of hours probably.
10,000 hours of practice, that's what they say, right?
Yeah, do you believe that, Outliers?
Absolutely, big time. I mean, it really makes a lot of sense. And the one thing, and I think they mentioned this, it's how you practice. I mean, you know this because you're such a focused and talented person, and you work really hard. I know you enough. And it has to be not just lackadaisical, running through the motions practice. It has to be really appropriate practice.
So where do you, going back to getting your start, so say you bought a few tricks, like how do you actually get involved to where now these tricks you have are so elaborate and so, they're so involved, there's so many layers to them. Like what was your first one that you felt like, okay, like I'm a legit magician?
It's really a good question, and it's really contrary to what I see nowadays. For me, AJ, it took me, honestly, about a year before I called myself a magician, and that's the truth. I got into it. I was playing with stuff. I mean, I was doing card tricks for people, anyone who would watch. I was doing stuff, but I didn't feel ready to be called a magician. So I've always had really high standards. I mean, even if the trick is not that complex, I think it should be clean. I think it should look good. You have to be honest with yourself. So I've always had high standards, and I'm getting better every day.
How are you getting better? Like, what do you do to get better other than, I guess, practice all your shuffles and how you can hold the cards? And that's strictly card tricks. You do a lot of others, but like, how do you get better? Do you seek out, and what's it mean when you trade tricks with other magicians?
So there's a few facets there. I get better because I practice. It's not just the mechanics of it. Like, let me give you an example. I did on my YouTube channel, I did a tutorial on a specific shuffle. So here's the shuffle, and you've seen it 100 times. So I break the cards and shuffle them in.
Is that a waterfall?
Yeah, so I call it like a waterfall style Cascade shuffle. And I have a tutorial on it teaching it because this is good for anyone. You don't have to be a magician. You can play poker. I mean, you love skill-based stuff. I know you would pick this up and have it in like an hour. But all you do is you break off half the deck. You literally weave them in just at the very corners, which, is knacky. Mm-hmm. And then you just thread them in, turn it, put it down and just let them roll. And, this is the type of thing that anybody could learn with practice. And right there is going to weed out a ton of people. Just that small, what I have to practice is going to 99.9% of guys gone at this point.
Really? So is that, do guys just want to, I don't know, buy a trick and not have to practice like that and just show up and maybe beat the guy at the party that pulls some weird thing out and bends a fork?
Everybody likes a good trick, and that's exactly it. Everybody wants to be, add water, instant magician, but it takes time. It takes a lot of time. And personally, and you and I have discussed this, I'm results driven. I like that long-term investment. I like to take a trick or a move, even just like that shuffle. And for me, there's just great satisfaction in the process of not being able to do it. I mean, this took me to get good. And I feel it's really at this point, I mean, I could pick up any deck. It could be a sticky deck and just right into a nice fan. Mm. And that took me over a year to do.
Really? How long until you felt comfortable doing it in front of a crowd?
So that's another excellent question, because there's the practice time where you get your hands good and you're ready, and then there's the realistic performance pressure. I mean, consider if you're, it's like game time for you. I mean, you're ready, you're pumped, and when you get on the field, there's that anxiety, that readiness, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, and so for people that the majority of people download and listen on iTunes or other audio versions. And this, I like to have a video when some people do want to watch. I would imagine if people are listening to this and they want to switch over and watch on YouTube, I know you have a deck of cards with you and you can't help yourself. I've been around you a lot, but you've already shown a few things with your shuffle. So this may be one of the ones that people want to watch the video, I would guess, more than others. Just thinking about the listeners there, Matt. But so that's what I think. So you're 16, you got into Magic. Then when was your first paid gig?
So I got into medical school. That was my path. I was going to med school. Growing up for me, it was doctor or lawyer. I mean, that was the only choices. So I went down that path of med school, and I was deep into it. And I got into a special program called early acceptance, where after 2 years of college, I got into med school, which was good and bad. It was good if you want to go to med school, because I never had to take the MCATs. And what happened was that's when I got heavy into close-up Magic. And I graduated a semester early, so now I had the semester plus the summer, and that's when I full throttle pursued, performing Magic. I mean, I did everything and anything under the sun to get work, to get clients, and I was doing paying gigs. I mean, there was this coffee house I used to work at. They paid me $2 a table. It was great. Then there was a lot of places I worked for free because it was a prestigious place just to be there and get in front of people and hand out my card. So, I hustled and I started building up some stuff, and then I went to med school.
And so did you get your doctorate?
So I did 2 years and I dropped out, or I withdrew. I withdrew to really, focus on doing what I'm doing, and I haven't looked back.
Nice. How did they feel when you told them you were dropping out to pursue full-time Magic?
So it wasn't unexpected because it wasn't just all of a sudden random. I mean, I was doing it, yet my parents didn't really understand. They didn't, again, doctor, lawyer, that was it.
Have they come around now that they've seen you work?
Absolutely.
Do you perform for them? Okay, let's say you go, and I've seen you in business settings where you're working, where you're not working, and it's weird how you can't help yourself. Especially if you have a new trick you want to show. But do your parents, how do you handle it? How do you balance that where family and friends, when you show up, and they're like, oh, what do you got, Matt? Come on, what do you got new for us? Does that happen a lot?
It does. My family at this point is not too much like that. I did a Mother's Day video where I did tricks for my parents, and I put it's on my channel, which was cool. It's definitely, there's definitely a disconnect there, because when you're with the friends and family, you're a different person than when you're performing, you're the magician. So I do, I love doing tricks, and I'll show anyone anytime, that. Yet there is definitely kind of a weird overflow there.
So where does most of your business come from?
So most of my work, or all my work, is private events. Anywhere from a private party, could be. I mean, I have a wedding I'm performing at on Saturday. I do bar mitzvahs. I just did a 50th birthday. Major amount of corporate events, company sales meetings, company incentive trips, company events all over. Ton of golf events, like the one we always, where we met originally. Your event is a fun. Remember, I performed at your fundraiser, stuff like that. Really all different. Any get together, dinner parties, really anything.
Now, are you almost like 100% referral based?
It's all word of mouth. Everything's word of mouth. People hear about me. That's really the only way I can work.
Well, you seem to. Actually have seen it happen in person to where I met you out in Lake Tahoe for American Century, and you come out there in NBC, and you do so much work for them, and just work hundreds and hundreds of people at a time, working the tent, all these events. It's got to be exhausting. But then you see other people getting your card saying, "Oh, I'm gonna bring him into my sales meeting, whatever." So we had you at my charity event. I know my brother, I think they brought you into their sales event. It's crazy, different companies and how it works. But are you still seeking more gigs, or do you have to turn down gigs, like you have too much coming at you?
So it is on auto at this point. I mean, the emails come in, the calls come in. It's a monster, which is great. If I'm available, that's my priority. I take it. If someone calls me for an event tomorrow and I'm available and I give them my fee and they okay it, then I book it. There are some things that I, turn down if I don't want to do it because, some things, just the traveling is a killer thing. But mostly I take everything that I get.
Do you have an assistant or anybody helping you out with scheduling?
No, not really. I did set things up well, so I have a nice flow. Yet I handle it all. It's a ton of work.
Well, yeah. Why don't you? Do you in the future? Are you gonna bring someone with you, or at least hire like a secretary / assistant just to schedule and book your trips for you?
There's certain parts that would be helpful. For example, when I'm booking the flights and dealing with stuff like that, that would definitely be helpful. Yet there's a lot of parts of my business that are really niche. People want to deal with me. People want to talk with me. People want to ask questions. And they don't just want to have that, random booker.
Okay. So what about your fee? So you say you give your fee. Could you give a range of what your fee could be? Like, you don't have to tell us what you get for a certain gig, but say someone wants to bring you in for, say, a weekend or a one-night show. Is there a range of what you could let us know, like what it may cost?
So I guess I didn't anticipate answering this.
You don't have to, man. I'm curious. Like, man, I don't know, because I think you should get crazy amounts of money to come in.
Let's just say it's double when I fly as opposed to when I'm at a local event, when I'm in New York.
Gotcha.
Because you have to get on a plane.
Are you saying, don't they pick up? I mean, they pick up your travel as well, though.
Yeah. So when I do an event out of town, it's airfare, hotel, transfers, plus fee. Because, you travel. Airfare, hotel, transfers are just not in my pocket. When your transfer's to and from the airport, you have to get there. An airfare, you have to pay. When we did an event, there was a separate cost. There was, remember, the transfers and the hotel and the airfare. So that's just on top of it. That's just expenses.
Gotcha. Yeah, living in New York City has to be pretty good to be a magician. I can imagine there's tons of work everywhere you go.
AJ, it's like anything. I don't think that be a magician and you'll be, whatever. I think that it's the person. You know what I mean? There's possibilities, and I've done things to get work that would make your hair stand up. I could tell you so many stories. I remember I used to look up events. I remember one time there was this big black tie event. It was a Tuesday, and there was a big black tie event at the Boathouse in Central Park. And I found out who was running it, and I went to their offices. And I walked in, and I asked who's in charge of the event, and I went and did some tricks, and I got myself hired. I do stuff like that, a ton of stuff like that. I still do. I don't have to, as really now. But I've done done so much stuff like that.
Yeah, I just meant having the concentrated population of people right there, especially like being in Manhattan compared to if you were in. I guess anywhere you go, if you just have to hustle, you'd have to get in a car and drive farther. In New York, everyone's all right there, I guess.
I think you're right. You're right. New York has a great amount of people, and it's plush and possibility. So I'm lucky to be here, but that I think isn't really the limiting factor most of the time. I think it's, guys don't get out there.
You have to be good too. You have to be able to perform.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the cream rises to the top. I've been around some, like, how do you not be one of the cheesy, over-the-top, like, douche magicians? I've been around a few of them, man, and it's kind of weird. We're like, oh, come on, man, can this guy just get away from our table, please? Like, how do you avoid that?
It's true. It's true. And you know what those guys are doing? Very simply, they're clouding the pool for guys like me. I do tricks. All the material that I do and choose is stuff that I think is cool and that I would like to watch. Plain and simple. Plus, and this is the big thing that I think differentiates me, a couple things. One, I told you I love the practice. I love the time. I don't mind working on a trick for a year before presenting it. I love that. And aside from that, I just do the trick. I have this theory on the time, that the lead-in time to a trick. It's like the U-shaped curve. It goes like this. People will watch, and before you pay off. And you have to have a big payoff, but you get to a critical point. If you go too long and you start dipping down, it doesn't matter how good the payoff is. You lost stuff. So all my tricks, my style is quick, in and out, strong ending.
Gotcha. Leave them wanting more.
Leave them wanting more and hit them hard and quickly. Like, you don't want to, I see guys all the time. It's like 2-3 minutes before any magic has happened. They talk, they do, it's like, get to the trick.
Yeah, that's the guy that you try to get away from your table, especially myself. I'm like, man, you lost me. Like 40 seconds in, you haven't done anything, and you're making these weird jokes that aren't funny. Like, come on, man, get to the work. But they're covering up probably the fact that they don't have a whole lot of tricks.
I think a lot of guys don't have a whole lot of tricks, and a lot of guys don't recognize that, nobody cares about your grandfather. Nobody wants to hear your story. People want to see a trick. So here's an opener I use. You've seen me use it tons of times. Walk up cold to a table, right into a coin trick. So that's just the opener of it. But the whole point is that's how I might walk up to a group. I don't walk up and ask them if they want to see a trick. I don't walk up and introduce myself. I walk up and I do a trick. So for people that audio people, which I'm just the last time I'll tell them, but you held up a little piece of like cotton or paper, and you lit it on fire, and all of a sudden you turned it into a silver dollar or quarter or something. Yeah. So that's just your opener. So you just walk up, bam, that gets their attention, then you got them. Well, even consider this. Even if I don't have them, this is my theory. Okay, let's say they're having a very important discussion, and they really they don't want to see magic. It's cool. They've seen a trick. You see what I mean? They've seen a trick. So now if they say, we're in the middle of a conversation, or maybe it's the wrong timing, which is understandable, they've already seen a trick. Good point. Does that happen much? Have you had to develop a way to like instincts to get a feel for the room and a feel for a table? Like say you walk up and you're like, oh, I guess these people it's a husband and wife really in a heated argument. You have to get out of there. It's interesting because there's definitely different dynamics at different events. When I'm at an event where, for example, I'm hired to be there, which is most of the time, in terms of, I call it rejection, there's some people, I meet people who don't like magic, and that just for me is code. They've seen a very poor magician, and they don't want to see it. And that's cool. I have to respect that. So that happens every once in a while. But for my YouTube channel, what I did was I've been filming a lot of cold stuff where I go out on the street. It's like cold calling. And there is more rejection, not only because I'm walking up cold on the streets of Manhattan, but I'm walking up with a camera. Somebody's holding a camera. So my theory, and I have a video on this, which is really cool, is next, no big deal. Yeah. What's your YouTube page? What's the how do people find it? We'll link it, but how do they find it? So we'll put a link, but it just in YouTube, you put my name, Matthew Furman.
And it's going to be, and I've noticed over the last year or so, you've really seemed to be putting more content out there. Was that like, why did you decide to make that decision?
So I didn't know too much about YouTube. A lot of people don't. I just thought YouTube, I don't know, a place to have some videos, which I had a few. I had about 5 videos up there. And I learned more, because I wanted to get more of an online presence. A lot of people ask, where can I see you? And the truth is nowhere. So I wanted to get more of an online presence. And, everybody nowadays, YouTube is very established. When you have YouTube stuff, it's like, oh, yeah, check out his YouTube. Like, people go to that. So it started like that. And I'm just an all or nothing. You know how I roll. I get into something, I get into it. And I did 100 days, 100 videos. I'm still working every day on my YouTube channel and getting better. And I'm trying to build my subscriber count. I've put a ton of time into it, and I've learned a ton. I mean, I just keep learning every day.
So how do you do that to where you're doing, like you're walking up doing these cold tricks to people? How do you balance that with showing cool magic tricks and posting them, but not giving away really all of your tricks? And say people become big fans of you and they see you in live and like, oh man, I watched them do all 10 of these tricks on YouTube.
Thing is, I have hundreds of tricks. That's one thing that sets me apart. I don't have 10 tricks. I don't like just doing 10 tricks. And there's no exposing. That's one thing. All these other channels and guys, they're teaching, and that's because they can't perform. Plain and simple. I'm the only guy out there performing for real people, mind-blowing magic. I mean, there's no one else doing it. And you know what, AJ? It's almost like a concert. Like you will go to a concert to watch your favorite artist perform. You're not necessarily going to see something brand new, though with me you will, but people love seeing it.
Yeah, what's a trick maybe that you've been working on for a long time and you just can't seem to perfect it? Could you give an example?
Well, I'm big into card tricks, as you know, and there's endless possibilities. And there's certain sleight of hand moves and routines that take time. And, it's like what we talked about. Not only is it practice of getting it perfect, it's that performance pressure. So certain routines I have to slowly ease in. And there are routines that I do that I know there's no other guys who would do it. They're just not doing it.
Could you give an example of one or two that maybe other people don't do or wouldn't do?
Okay. So let me see if I can do this. I'm looking at the monitor. I'm going to drop them and please say stop.
Stop.
Okay. So not really looking. I kind of looked. I don't know. Can you see it?
I can see it, yeah, but I mean, you can too, I'm sure.
I can see it, but I'm kind of not.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is bring it into frame and be like something like that.
Wow.
So different, that's just a small example.
So that's considered a sleight of hand, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would consider that like let me do that one. Let me do that again. I don't know what the context was like. More like. So that's just one example of, for example, that's called a card change, which I love. And there's so many, and I work on those all the time. And there's certain ones that I feel comfortable go-tos to perform. And then there's others, which not so much, I'm still working on.
So what happens if you do have a little hiccup, make a little mistake? How do you play it off so the people don't know?
Just keep it moving.
Just act like it's part of it, right?
Keep it moving. It happens. I mean, people ask that, do you mess up? The thing about my style, and you know this, is I do a lot of tricks. So I don't really, it's not just one trick. So if the trick doesn't, if it's not great, it's like, you're in a bad shape. I do 10 tricks, 15 tricks. So if one of them, there's a hiccup, it's like.
And we don't know.
Right?
Yeah, we don't know either. You just act as if. The old Boiler Room movie. Like, we don't know. You keep it going. I listened to Penn from Penn and Teller talk about this on a radio interview once, and he said how he's like, "What are you talking about? He's like, if I mess up all the time, but we don't ever like let on to it because we'll continue with our bit and we'll continue going, and then we'll get it right." And just like he's been around enough, they have so much experience where it's like you can just play Jedi mind tricks with everybody.
Absolutely. Listen, the trick's never over until you end it. That's the whole point.
That's a great point. What do you think of guys like that? Do you have it like Penn and Teller or what David Copperfield? Like he's an illusionist, correct?
Yeah, those guys are more, I think, of like bigger on stage. They're great. I mean, David Copperfield is probably the greatest magician in the world. Like, hands, definitely. Penn and Teller, they're terrific. Do I agree with all their philosophies? Maybe not. But I highly respect and admire them, and they're unbelievable. They've been around, it's 40 years. They're unbelievable.
What about a guy like David Blaine? What's he doing? What's that called?
So I don't exactly know. I mean, he did his thing. Everybody knows his name. He did his thing. All I can say is a lot of these guys get involved with TV, and the magic just alters. It changes. It becomes what looks good on TV. And that's really a big point. Also, now I see it on YouTube and Instagram. All these magicians are doing tricks or moves or routines to the camera. They're like focused in one area and they do something and they film it till it looks good. Everything that I do is real time for real people. I mean, everything that you could see me do, like even the coin thing you've seen me do a bunch of times, any card thing you've seen me do live a bunch of times. I'm a firm believer that you should only be doing stuff that you could perform in real time live.
Yeah, that's so interesting how the different like philosophies, I guess the different styles of magic or illusions that people can do. It reminds me of have you remember watching on TV, they will say, this coming up next, the magician will pull the curtain back and this magician is going to show you how we do all these tricks. And they like show you how they saw the girl in half and he's wearing a mask and the guy never really gives you anything.
Yeah, they did expose a lot of the quote unquote illusions, a lot of the older stuff, but that's why I like close up. And that's why I have routines that it doesn't matter if you know what I'm doing because it's so complex and deep and tough to do. I mean, I get that all the time. I get comments like, I know what you're doing. I just can't believe you're doing it. And that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I've gone through stages when I watch your magic and I watch other people react to it. I gave up years ago trying to figure out how you do any of your tricks. I really have.
That's the best way.
It's almost like a drain of my energy, and I watch people just lose their mind, freaking out, watching you do all these tricks. And like, hold on, I think I saw. I'm trying to wait. I'm really. They'll zero in on your hands and try to figure it out. I'm like, bro, you're not gonna figure it out. Just enjoy the trick. Don't try to sit here and then they'll like try to write notes down on how they think they're gonna figure you out. Is that what, who's the best people to perform, I guess? Who's the best audience?
I like performing for everyone, and I really, this is some stuff I address in my YouTube channel. I really think people have a misconception, or at least I think of magic differently. You have to fool people. You have to be amazing. Your stuff has to be great. Yet, it's like, what are you going for? Like, I'm not going for somebody thinking I'm mystical and I have magical powers. I'm just not going for that. I like people to consider it great skill, unbelievable, that was amazing. Like, that's enough for me.
So it is a skill. I think that's something that's overlooked a lot. Even just the mechanics of what you do is a big time. It's very skillful and technical. Like, what would a normal day, like say a day that you're not performing, say like this morning, what's a normal day look like for you? Do you wake up and are you working on new tricks or honing your skills every day?
So there's always, I'm always practicing, always a deck of cards in my hand. And I have a ton of work to do every day. First off, the YouTube channel is a monster. It's like, because I'm just always revamping. It's a crazy amount of work. Aside from the YouTube channel, I have a ton of I handle everything. So I got to book my flights. I was booking some flights. And
you need to, Matt, you need to delegate some of this. You need to hire a virtual assistant. You need to do something, man. You need to just work on your craft and delegate some of the periphery.
You're right. You're right.
And you can't. So, okay, but I guess like zeroing in on tricks and stuff you're working on. Like, do you have a trick or a couple of them now that you're working on you haven't shown yet, or you don't feel comfortable yet to perform in public, and you're working every day on it?
I just worked on the sickest card trick. I'm all hyped, and I I did it for my girlfriend. So it's awesome. And I was thinking about, can I do it? But the problem with this situation is you kind of need someone. And I didn't set up I want to put a card down. But yeah, I'm always working on it. And when I have a new trick, I'm super excited.
So those new tricks, like how do you come up or how do you get new tricks? Do you trade with other magicians? Like where do these things come from?
There's a ton of material out there. There's a ton of books. There's a ton of DVDs. There's a ton of lectures. There's really just a ton of information. The problem is people, it goes back to what I originally said with the shuffle. People don't want to put the time in. People just don't want to put the time in. And for me, I love it. So if I'm going to work on something, I'll look at everything involving that. So I saw this guy do this one trick on on Facebook. I saw something, and I like what he did, certain parts of the trick. I really like how he used something. So I took this one specific thing and I just totally changed it and put it into another trick, which makes it really nice, in my opinion. So stuff like that. I'm always reading stuff. I'm always upgrading.
So you're always out there looking for new stuff. Is it the fact that there's so much information or so many things out there, as you say, that you guys can access, but a lot of the guys won't put the time in that it takes sometimes, where it could take a year to perfect a trick? Like, is that what it is? What separates you, I guess, and what keeps people from actually doing these amazing tricks? So it's only a few of you that can do it?
Yeah, what I find is, first off, the better you get, the better your tricks are. I mean, that makes sense, right? And it's like a threshold level you have to reach. I'm at a point, like, especially just say with certain things, it's a lot easier for me to say, oh, I like that. I have a nice toolkit of different sleights and different things. Yet a lot of guys never develop their toolkit, so they're always limited by their ability. And that really, their ability, and if your technique is good, you're more comfortable doing more advanced stuff.
Can you think of any nightmare gigs you've had where things just did not go the way you thought they were?
I've had a bunch.
Like, what happened? Did stuff break? Was the crowd just terrible and violent, or what was it?
I got a crazy story for you. So there's a place called Cipriani, 42nd Street, and it's not far from me in Midtown. And it's huge. It is a humongous place. I bet you they could pack in there, a few thousand people. It's that type of place. And they do parties and events and stuff. And what happened was, this one travel company wanted me to come on stage, and I was strolling during cocktails, and then they wanted me to come on stage and do something. And the problem is, it was a strolling event, and there were a ton of people. And you really got to go into an event with the appropriate setup. So I told them, I said, I don't think it's going to work for me to do a show on stage because there's too many people. They're not really seated. People are just walking around. And they assured me, they said, look, the CEO is going to get up and talk. Everyone listens to him. And then he's going to, say, now we have, the magician, Matthew Furman, doing some stuff. And everyone will watch, and it'll be great. So I agreed to it, and, I've done this so many times, so I get there, and the guy gets up, talks for 2 seconds, says nothing about me. And then it's like, here. And it was just a nightmare because, no performer in that setting could have done it. It was too big of a room, too much chaos, and it was horrible. I mean, it was, I did my best. I crawled through that. It just was not the appropriate thing. And then this is the crazy kicker to it. So that was for this big travel company. And then 2 weeks later, I get a call, and it's from John Miller, who we both know. He's my guy at NBC. And John Miller's the reason I'm in Tahoe, and actually the reason behind most of my stuff. He's just been so good to me. So meanwhile, he calls, and he has an event, and he wants me to perform it, and they want me to do a little something on stage. Same place. It's at Cipriani. It's 2 weeks later. And I'm like, John, I don't think it's going to be appropriate. And he's like, no, it will be good. And I told him, and he's like, listen, we'll put you in the right spot. Oh, and it was for the New York Giants. That's what it was. It was with Coach Coughlin. And John's like, I want you to go in and do some stuff, and they want you to do a little show. AJ, I swear to you, they wait, and Bruce Beck is doing the announcing on stage, and he runs an auction. And now I'm after the auction, and it's 10 o'clock, and it's a weeknight. And boom, they announced me, and everyone starts leaving because it was late. And it was the same horrible setup. And I'm like, never again am I going on this stage. Same place.
Yeah. What kind of magic do you try to do on stage? Like, what would you even do? You can't really do card tricks up on stage, can you?
Well, you're absolutely right. You got to play bigger. I mean, the only way I could do the same stuff you see me do close up is when they do a projection screen, which sometimes clients do. And then you call up, like, a guest of honor or the CEO, and you see the couple people there, and you do the magic to them, and now people could watch it on the screen. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. If you're going to be on stage, you kind of have to do, like, you got to saw the girl in half or make a card disappear. That's different stuff. That's not magic, really.
Well, there is a what's called stand-up and a more parlor style, and I do a lot of that too. My niche is really 200 people or lower. When you start getting above that, it gets too big. I just did this event in Vegas for a company and brought in an illusionist, and he did his bird act. Actually, I have another video of that. It's pretty cool. Did his bird act, which is awesome, and then he produced the guest of honor, so with an illusion. So when you have a large crowd or the right setting, it's what's called visuals or eye candy. That's more appropriate on stage.
What's a bird act?
So you ever see when guys are literally producing birds, like from nowhere?
Yeah, like pulling a pigeon out of their hat or whatever, or rabbit out of your hat, I guess it would be. But yeah,
like birds, and it's great.
That's a whole different genre, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Wow. Have you dabbled in anything like that?
No, I always stayed, with close-up. I mean, I've really kind of defined myself. Close-up, I do a lot of walk-around magic and magic and mind reading, and up to about 200 people. I'm very comfortable to come in, which is appropriate at a lot of events. Yet when there's an event that's more people than that, or if they want something more like a show on stage, like an illusion show, that's just not my bag.
Now, I can't jump over. You said mind reading. Now, what exactly is that? And that is much different than sleight of hand.
So really, people like to separate the two, and I guess people have, but I've been doing a combination of the both for 20 years.
So how is that? That's almost like a completely different skill, I feel like, and I guess what would be considered mind reading. I mean, I've watched you. Yeah, I don't even know how to describe something. Can you describe a trick that would be considered mind reading?
Oh, many times, and this is, you've seen me do it a bunch, is I'll ask someone, think of your mom's maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
And then you tell it to them, you divine it, and that would be a pure mind reading trick. Or maybe somebody has a book, or somebody has a magazine, or somebody has something, you say, pick out a word. That would be a mind reading. That would be mind reading.
No, I mean, I know you can't give your tricks away, but how the hell do you do that?
Everybody likes a good trick, you know that.
Yeah, don't people think then? Oh, that's a setup. He and this guy talked beforehand.
Well, I have, people don't when you're at an event because they know each other. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I have, for example, on my YouTube channel, I have over 100 videos where I'm doing it in every video. And you know what I mean? And you get to a point when you see it 150 times, you start to know it's not a setup.
Yeah. What happened? So out in Lake Tahoe, the American Century Championship, you work every single gathering there. On Saturday, I believe, there's always a huge commotion, and a lot of people have been there before, so they can't wait to show you off to their friends that haven't been there. There's a big commotion Saturday afternoon in the tent after the round. Timberlake brought you over, or you went over, you were working his table, and then all of a sudden there was like 100 people surrounded by the table. Like, what happened there?
So, the tent. It's awesome. The American Century tent is where it's at. I mean, and exactly. So, I mean, you have Justin Timberlake in there. You have you in there. I mean, Stephen Curry in there. I mean, you got big dogs in there. So, this is my 15th year at this event. So, I'm the resident magician, and everybody knows me, and everybody, likes seeing the tricks, and it's fun. So I did I did a set for Justin Timberlake, which was great, which actually I made a video of. It's on my channel if you want to see it. And then on Saturday he was back, and I, again went over. It was him, Alfonso, and then Marty Fish came over, and it started to build. And Justin's he's a born entertainer. So when I started, he screamed, "Gather around, gather around." And people did, and you're right. I started doing it, and next thing you know, and it was just an impromptu show, probably went 20, 30 minutes, as they always do. And I had like 50 to 100 people just watching. It was awesome.
They're from all angles too. Does that make it different when you have like people are crowding you, looking over both shoulders, almost like not? Does that change or make you give you anxiety? It gives me anxiety thinking about it. If I was trying to perform and people are literally like bumping into me.
Well, the short answer is yes, but no. I mean, I'm used to it. That's what I'm ready for. That's what I do. And, this might be shocking to other guys, but AJ, that's big boy magic.
It is. Well, I'm just thinking there's people all behind. Like, is there any way that you have to be very confident in your skills and what you're doing, or I feel like people that close and looking over they're just covering you, that it could compromise some of your tricks.
Well, it limits some of my tricks. There's tricks I cannot do. And that's why when I see guys, posting on Instagram, just a real visual, which I know they can't do in real time. And I know that the angles are terrible. I know they filmed it 400 times until they finally got that perfect. It just, to me, it doesn't resonate. That's not what magic is supposed to be for me.
What would be an example of one you maybe couldn't do if you had 50 or 100 people like surrounding you on all sides?
There are tricks where the backstage view is just not good. I mean, consider it like this: if you went to a Broadway show, you would not stand behind the performer, and certain shows or certain performances, I have that luxury. I'm on stage. Close-up magic is not like that. It's a different animal, and I have people all around me all the time. So I've structured and catered my magic to that. There's a lot of tricks, you can't do. Tricks where maybe I'd be hiding something, or tricks where you just leave it out.
Do you have any mentors like in there that you have kind of looked up to, or that you kind of bounce ideas off of?
So the better I get, and I do get better because I practice and work on it and think about it, and it's my life and I love it. It doesn't happen per chance. It's not, oh my God, I got better because I've been doing. No, I work on it. The better you get, the more you weed out people, because people aren't at the same commitment level as me. Yet, do I have certain guys? There's a lot of material out there. I have a real good eye for material, and at this point, I'm able to take something and really change and craft it. I have a lot of experience, but I do like meeting up with or talking to people and bouncing ideas. I love talking about magic.
Are there tricks that are like trademarked to a certain person or a place, or like how does that work?
So magic is like the wild, wild west. It is, because there's no qualifications. Like, you want to be a pro football player, you got to get in. You didn't just make that decision up. You got accepted. You got chosen. That's a privilege. You want to be a doctor, you need to go to med school, you need to get degrees, you need to do residency. You want to be a magician, yep, you're a magician. There's zero qualifications. So therefore, you see a large variance amongst magicians. Now, I believe I'm not into, halving anything. I'm not into, partial. I'm not into doing anything on the side. So for me, I work really hard and I have high standards. I see a lot of in between and a lot of not much.
Is it like stand-up comedy though, to where like the worst offense possible is to steal someone's material in stand-up? Like, do you have that in magic where you could steal someone else's trick and they get upset?
That's a good point. I didn't address that. I forgot. So basically, nowadays it's my trick. It's my trick. All these guys, and I've been in magic for 25 years. And truth is, like, most stuff is not new. You know what I mean? You could find it somewhere. I think the key is to really build on the shoulders of giants. You really want to, walk on the shoulders of giants, to say. I mean, you want to take great material and make it better, make it more suited to your hands, to your style. And that's what I do. When I'm performing at an event, or when I'm in the tent at American Century, nobody's curious whose trick I'm doing.
No one cares. They just know how awesome it is. And yeah, I guess. What about a guy like what did Harry Houdini do? He was doing like feats like crazy, like burying himself underground and I don't know, submerging himself underwater. He ended up dying on one of his tricks. Like, do you respect the type of stuff he was doing?
Yeah, so Houdini probably was the greatest marketer of his time. He was an escape artist. He did a little bit of card magic, not really, but it was just a different era. People used to go see him perform, and he'd go on stage. He'd get in some sort of contraption. They'd put a sheet over it, and he'd wait 20 minutes to a half hour, and then he'd come out. And people would sit there in anticipation. Now, you know what they would do?
Leave.
They'd leave. And they'd be like, bye. Just a different era. There was no television. There was no movies. We're just in a different era.
Yeah, but didn't he die on one of his tricks?
Yeah, so he used to have this thing because he was in real good shape. And I don't know if he was as good a shape as you, but he was in pretty good shape. And he used to challenge that anyone could punch him as hard as they can in his stomach. And apparently, one time in his dressing room, somebody did, and he wasn't ready, and it ruptured his appendix. And he didn't like hospitals, and he didn't go, and then he finally went, and it was too late, and he died from it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, he's a guy that everybody knows the name. I guess the new age version of that, like David Blaine does similar type stuff to where I guess he's not maybe he's escaping, but he stays underwater in Times Square in a ball for 72 hours or something weird. Like I've seen weird stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's another marketing genius. I mean, consider that. His name is a household name. And, I guess I guess he's still doing magic. I don't know, but that's really his focus. You see some like stunts and really like crazy stuff like that.
He's levitating. How do you feel about that?
I really feel that you should be able to perform your tricks in real time for real people in person.
So what are they doing though when David Blaine kind of hit the scene? That's what they would tease it going into the commercial. He's going to levitate. This man can float or fly, whatever. And then all of a sudden they'd show him, and they wouldn't really show him levitating. They would cut to someone freaking out and falling on the ground and saying, "Oh my gosh, this guy's he's an alien. He's a ghost." Like, who are those people?
That whole genre of TV magic is out of control. So I don't know, but. That's the right answer. Who are those people? That's the right question. Who are those people?
I don't know. Not me. I'm not a mark. I wouldn't let them catch me, Matt. They're not getting me. What about your so would you I obviously your YouTube channel, you're going to continue to put awesome stuff out there. What about something like are you looking to get into TV ever, or maybe like a Netflix special? Like what's the plan?
No plan. There's never been a plan. I just keep driving forward, working hard. I challenge myself every day. I don't really have a specific goal. It's wherever it takes me, and it's been a great ride.
Now, you said earlier, though, I have to go back to how you have this new trick that you love, this card trick, and you tried it, or you showed your girlfriend. I guess you did the trick to her. Like, when do you know that, how does that work with your relationships like that, to where someone's in, where you can show them? I don't know. Do you ever show anyone super close to you, like, hey, this is how I do it?
So when I showed it to her, I didn't expose it to her. I performed it for her. And it's a good question, because you need to be able – there's a lot of factors involved. You need someone who's going to be honest with you. I see guys perform, and sometimes it's not good, and I don't think anyone's honest with them. I think you see a 12-year-old kid, and he'll get into magic, and he'll be doing tricks for his parents, and they'll be like, "That's great," but it's not. And I don't think that's beneficial. So I do it, and I ask her honest opinion. What do you think? And then I got to do 3 other versions. I'm like, what do you think as compared to this?
And you get you're not into the. Everybody gets a trophy for the 12-year-old magician. That kid's gonna be a terrible magician. He's not gonna be able to make a living.
What it comes down to, and this is the example I use all the time. If you take an open heart surgeon, and if I need open heart surgery, give me the guy who's done 1,000 surgeries, who's opened up 1,000 people. I don't want the guy who's read every book on it. What do you think? Yeah,
I'm with you. You've lived it. Show me a guy that didn't just read about it. He's done it, and he's lived, and some experience. But going back to the showing a girlfriend a trick or whatever. So I'm just thinking, if say I was a professional magician, I had all these sleight of hand and tricks and everything. So my wife Laura, which you know Laura, if I showed her, I showed her these tricks, but I didn't expose it to her, I guarantee you she would be nagging me all day. Like, I don't care. Stop. You got to tell me. Like, explain to me how you're doing it. Like, how do you handle that?
I got that recently.
Really? From this girl?
Yeah, she's like, you're going to show me a trick on, So what I did was I taught her, I'll show you what I taught her.
Please do.
And so she likes this, springing the cards. Mm-hmm. So I taught her how to do it. And that's just another one of, it's like the shuffle. It's just a cascade. It's like the Cascade one that we did. It's more of a skill type thing. And I told her, I said, if you can learn how to do this, then I'll show you a trick. And she's practiced this, but it's like, it's almost like I want to see that you're going to put the effort in as opposed to, yes, here's how it works.
That's awesome. So if she can learn the Cascade, then you'll show her like one of your very basic tricks.
Yeah, and the problem I'm up against, because every once in a blue, like I'll do like a lesson. Like I'll get like a high profile client and their son will be into magic or something, and they're like, we want you to do a lesson, and I'll do it. And the thing is, all these guys, they want to learn the tricks that I do. And the tricks that I do, it's not just like, here's the secret, go do it. Everybody wants to just be able to do it. But it doesn't work like that.
How do lessons work? Like, do people hire you privately like that to maybe teach a few tricks?
I have that every once in a while. And when I give a lesson, what I do is I have some simple tricks that are good ones that I teach. I have a couple things I teach that they could practice. And there's some stuff that they can immediately do, but it's not my repertoire. I'm not going in teaching them my tricks that I do. I'm just not.
So what about me? What if I wanted a lesson? Would you teach me a few tricks?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's not like exposing, I guess if there's money exchange, is okay in the magician's handbook that you could teach me some? I don't feel that way yet. If you were genuinely interested in learning some tricks, I have some basic ones that are good that I definitely, would go over with you. But again, it's not like, here's money now, here's, a whole tutorial on my repertoire. I don't believe in that. Yeah, I always wondered that, I guess. It's, what about I'm wrapping it up here and have just a couple more for you. There's so many different aspects of what you do that's crazy to me. And I remember, so we're talking John Miller. The weirdest thing is how my wife and I randomly ran into you in London in the lobby one time.
That was funny.
We were in London a couple years ago. We took my daughter, and we're in this hotel, and all of a sudden we see John Miller. He's like, oh, hey, yeah, I think they were there for rugby or something, or soccer. I'm not sure. And John's like, oh, hey, Matt's here. And then all of a sudden we see you, and we're out having tea and scones or whatever they do in London with you. Having lunch. So you go everywhere with a company like NBC, and it made me think of, you worked for you were on Hard Knocks. Was it the Jets that you performed for?
Yeah, I just saw Mike Tannenbaum. I just did a party for him in Florida. Wow. And I'm still in touch with that crew. So when I saw you in London, that was an event for all of soccer, all of football, and who was there? Pele.
Jeez.
I never met the guy. I mean, I was pretty impressed. He's a legend,
I mean, yeah, I would imagine he's who I guess would you say is someone that you performed for that you never thought you would ever meet or get in front of?
There's so many big names.
Like presidents, I'm guessing.
I don't know that I've done. I did, Bill Clinton a couple things for, but even you take like AJ, someone like you. I mean, I'm a big fan, so we've become friends. But I remember meeting you. I remember like, oh my God, I remember when your hair was long.
Yeah, that's a while back, man. You've evolved though as a magician. I would say with all the stuff that you've come out with, and it's like, I don't know, maybe it's a cool like bridge that you have between you and like a guy like Timberlake and Steph Curry. When are you ever going to be around a situation where not only will you talk with them, you're going to perform for those guys, and they're also going to have big time reactions like of approval of, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's very rewarding, and in the end, what it comes down to is it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody likes a trick done well. Everybody likes a good trick.
They do. Everyone does not like to be tricked, though.
Well, people don't mind being fooled by a gentleman. Consider that.
So you have, I've noticed though, you've recently, sometimes throughout your tricks now, you've been like telling stories, or not telling, like you're explaining it and you're rhyming throughout. Is that something that you're doing now?
So you're talking about the that one card routine I do, which I wrote, which is awesome. I explore all different tricks, any hot trick. I mean, if it's a hot trick, I'm on it. And that is one routine that I worked about 1.5 years on, and I know which one you're talking about, and that's on my YouTube channel. So it's a great one, and yeah, it's a whole like rhyme through the whole deck. And just another piece. I mean, I'm always adding pieces.
And you're saying you wrote that?
Yeah.
So did you have the card trick, and then you decided to add this adds another layer to it if I write this rhyming story with it?
What happened was there was a guy I heard about, this guy Butch Schoen, who used to work a lot of PGA events for a lot of golfers, and I do a ton of those now. And I used to hear his name. Have you seen this guy Butch? Have you heard of Butch? And I didn't. And then I had a friend in Magic, this card magician from Buffalo, who knew Butch. So I kept hearing his name, and I heard he did some nice stuff. So I found him. I called him, developed a friendship with him over the phone. He was in Arizona, and I flew out to Arizona. I was going out there, and I got together with the guy. And he did this one routine. He called it the gin routine, where he did a full deck thing, and he told like a little bit of a rhyme story, and it was awesome. I changed everything about it. I rewrote the whole thing, and I changed all the deck handling. So it's really, based on his and structured, similar to his, but everything's different, and it's just cool.
That's awesome, man. So that's all I have for you. Do you have any final little tricks you want to show to the camera for the people that are actually watching this on YouTube?
The whole time I've been chewing this.
What is it?
So
the gum? You just pulled gum out of your mouth?
And chew it later.
Oh, man. You just turned gum. You took gum from your mouth, turned it into what? A full stick, and then into the big red packet.
Yeah, I don't want to waste it.
Okay. All right. Well, you are an alien, Matt. You're something, which is good. It's the ultimate compliment, I think. People think that you're not human.
I'm coming from you. It's a big compliment.
Is that a compliment, or do you get offended when people try to say, this guy's he's not real. He's not a human. He's a ghost or a hybrid. Is that a compliment?
Absolutely.
All right. Good, man. Well, Matthew Furman, greatest magician I've ever seen or been around. I really appreciate you coming on here. We will definitely link up your YouTube channel. We know you're adding to that, grinding on it every day. But thank you so much, man, and we'll talk down the road.
Excellent. Thanks, AJ. Real privilege to be a part of this.
Thanks, man.
We're glad you could join us for today's conversation. After you subscribe to the show, head over to thehawkcast.com or reach out to AJ directly on Twitter at @officialAJHawk to recommend future guests that will help us inspire people to keep talking. Thanks again, and we look forward to speaking with you next time on the HawkCast.